Every year, somewhere between $800 billion and $2 trillion of dirty money gets washed clean and slipped back into the world's banking system, and almost none of it is moved by the people you picture when you hear the phrase money laundering. It isn't cartel bosses in white suits. More often, it's a tired, ordinary professional in a cheap tie who knows the rules better than anyone in the building, because enforcing those rules used to be his job. This is the story of how an honest banker becomes a money launderer, and it doesn't happen in one dramatic, villainous choice. It happens in a slow slide built from three things: unbearable pressure, easy opportunity, and one comforting lie a person tells himself until he believes it. Criminologists have a name for that combination. They call it the fraud triangle. And the chilling part is that given the right pressure, the right opening, and the right excuse, researchers estimate the overwhelming majority of otherwise honest people could be pulled across the same line. So, let me put you inside it, because the most disturbing thing isn't how evil it feels. It's how reasonable every step feels from the inside. You know the number before you even open the envelope. $13,000, and that's just the credit card. There's also the $2,400 in back rent, the car payment you've deferred twice, and the divorce settlement that pulls $1,100 from your account on the first of every month. Ready or not, you've known these numbers for 8 months. They're the last thing in your head before you sleep, and the first thing waiting when you wake. You're a senior relationship banker at a mid-sized regional institution, and you've been there 12 years. 12 years of mortgage consultations, loan approvals, and sitting across from people who smell like anxiety and gas station coffee. You know every product the bank sells, every regulation by heart. You passed your licensing exams on the first attempt, never missed a compliance audit, never filed a suspicious activity report late in your life. 12 years, everything done right, and they've passed you over for promotion twice, handing it to someone younger, someone louder, someone who golfs with the regional director. You drive home to an apartment that feels smaller than it used to. The divorce did that. Half the furniture is gone, and the wall where the bookshelf stood still carries a pale rectangle of cleaner paint. You look at the stack of bills on the counter, and your stomach does the thing it always does now, a slow, familiar drop. Then your phone buzzes. It's Vince. You went to school together, both finance majors. You went into banking and Vince went somewhere else. You've never been sure where, but you've heard things. He texts the same thing every few months. Dinner soon. It's been too long. You always say yes and always cancel. This time you say yes and mean it. He picks a restaurant that costs more than anywhere you've ever eaten. He's wearing a watch worth more than your car, and orders wine without glancing at the price. And you notice, and file it away. He doesn't ask about the divorce. He asks about the bank. And you tell him the truth, all of it. The promotions they wouldn't give you, the 12 years, the feeling of being invisible in a place you built your life around. He refills your glass, studies you a moment, and says it quietly. I know some people who could use someone like you. You ask what he means. He doesn't tell you everything, just enough. A simple arrangement. Money comes in from various sources. You receive it, you move it, you make it disappear into clean accounts. Wire transfers, small companies, the same layering, the same spreadsheets, the same language you speak fluently every day, just for different clients. And you tell him no. You have a license and a career and a reputation, and you're not losing all of it over some side deal. He nods, pays the bill, and stands to leave. But before he goes, he sets a small USB drive on the white tablecloth. Just look at what's on it, he says. You don't have to do anything. You take the drive home, telling yourself you're only curious. You plug it in a little after midnight, and it's bank statements. Your statements, going back 4 years. Flagged transactions. Internal compliance notes your own manager wrote about you that were never shown to you. A line from a regional audit saying your performance is strong but your profile raises questions. You don't fully understand what that means, but clearly someone does. Someone has been watching your accounts, your transfers, your decisions for 4 years, and never said a word to your face. Your mouth goes dry, your hands are steady, but only just. You call Vince in the morning. You tell yourself it's only a conversation, that you just need to understand what they have on you before you decide anything. 20 minutes later, you're sitting across from him again. And here's the thing nobody warns you about. It starts small. One account, a holding company registered in Delaware, something forgettable like Stratford Capital Partners, nothing on paper to suggest anything is wrong. Money flows in from a limited liability company 2 states away. You move it through 2 sequential transfers, convert part into a cashier's check, redeposit the rest as a consulting retainer, and keep each cash piece beneath the federal reporting threshold, so no automatic alert fires. There's a word for it. You learned it in your first compliance training as a warning sign to watch for in others. Now, you use it as a method. The whole thing takes about 35 minutes. Vince hands you an envelope, $7,000 in cash for work you could do in your sleep. Your fingers smell like paper money the rest of the night. You pay the rent. You pay the car. You put the rest against the credit card. And for the first time in 8 months, The number behind your eyes goes down. 3 weeks later, you run another account. A month after that, 2 more. The amounts grow. 50,000, then 200,000, then into 7 figures. You open accounts at 3 other institutions to spread the exposure. You build a layering structure, money moving through multiple accounts, multiple entities, multiple jurisdictions, each transfer legitimate on its own, the full shape visible only to you. You know exactly which transactions would trip a suspicious activity report because you helped design the systems that catch this. You know every wire, every rule, every blind spot between them. Some nights you're at the desk until 3 in the morning, the monitor's the only light in the building, your eyes burning, your shoulders carrying a grinding ache that never leaves because you don't really sleep anymore. You walk to the window and realize you might be the only person awake in the city doing exactly this, and there's something in it you don't have a clean word for that feels uncomfortably like power. For the first time in years, you feel sharp, needed, like someone finally handed you a problem worthy of you. And that's the first mistake. Mistaking the feeling of being useful for the feeling of being in control. But here's the lie you tell yourself, the one that finally lets you sleep. The money isn't yours. You're just a technician, a plumber. The water runs through your pipes, but it was never your water. Someone else would do it if you didn't. The people whose money you're cleaning, you don't know their names, and you never ask. By the time it leaves your hands, it's just numbers, clean numbers, and cleaning is all you do. That story works perfectly, right up until one Thursday near 11 at night, when you see a name in a wire memo field that you recognize, a restaurant on the east side. You've eaten there. Your daughter ordered the pasta. You remember the owner, a heavy-set man with a loud laugh who worked every table like he loved each person at it. The wire is $340,000. The memo says property settlement. You process it in 4 seconds and move on. 2 weeks later you drive past and the windows are dark and there's a notice taped to the door. Whatever that money was, it wasn't a settlement. You don't slow down. 3 days later your manager calls you into her office, and you get the promotion, the real one, the one at the bank. She says you've shown remarkable focus this past quarter, exceptional attention to detail. You thank her. You shake her hand. And you think about the fact that last month alone you moved $2.5 million through accounts she doesn't know exist. Your hands don't shake at all. You buy a $2,000 couch and a $400 scotch, and for the first time in a long time the floor underneath you feels solid. Your daughter calls on a Sunday. She's 11 now. She tells you about a school project, something about ecosystems, and you listen, you really listen, and when she laughs, you feel it land deep in your chest. You promise her you'll see her next weekend, and you mean it. Then Vince calls, and his tone is different. He says there's someone who wants to meet you, someone who's been watching your work. And he says, in a voice that leaves no room, that it's not a request. The hotel suite is on the 41st floor. You take the elevator up and catch yourself holding your breath. The man inside introduces himself as Anton, and he's calm in the way that only genuinely dangerous men are calm. He pours you a glass of water, sets it in front of you, and waits. He tells you the volume is about to increase significantly. The current structure is too fragmented, too slow, too amateur for what's coming. He needs someone who can manage the entire architecture, who can move $50 million a year through shell companies in 7 countries without leaving a fingerprint. He needs you, not as a contractor, but as an employee. You tell him you have a job, a license, a life outside this room. Instead of arguing, he opens a folder and slides it across the glass table, and the small sound it makes, paper against glass, is somehow both very quiet and very loud. It's all there. Every transfer, every structured deposit, every shell account, every decision you've made over the last 14 months, printed and annotated in red ink by someone who understood exactly what they were looking at the whole time. Nothing you've done, Anton says gently, has ever been invisible. It was never meant to be. Your chest tightens, slowly, like a hand closing around something soft. You still haven't touched the glass of water, and you don't reach for it now, because you don't want this man to see your hand shake. You think about Vince at that first dinner. The watch. The wine ordered without looking. The USB drive set down like a gift. All of it choreographed. All of it a door that only ever opened one way. You were never deciding whether to walk through it. You walked through it 14 months ago, the morning you made that first call. You just didn't know it yet. 6 months later, you don't work at the bank anymore. You resigned cleanly, collected your reference letters, shook your manager's hand, and walked out through the glass doors without looking back and without feeling much of anything. Now you work in a suite registered to a real estate holding company, on a middle floor of a building nobody looks at twice. 3 monitors, accounts in 9 countries, a compliance specialist who spent 14 years inside the Treasury Department and knows exactly how investigators think, a consultant who routes everything through servers in Cyprus and Belize, 2 analysts who ask no questions and produce immaculate work. You are the architect. Anton uses that word with real respect, and the worst part is you've earned it. The network you've built has never generated a single suspicious activity flag. Not one. You built it by understanding the system from the inside out, every threshold, every trigger, every pattern that catches amateurs. You don't avoid the system. You speak its language so fluently you can lie to it without it noticing. The money lands in an account you check every morning with your coffee, and the number climbs every week. The apartment is gone. You have a house now, with a yard and furniture in every room, and small expensive things you never imagined owning. But there was a call you didn't pick up. Your daughter phoned 3 weeks ago. You were moving $8 million through a chain of 6 entities before a regulatory window closed at midnight, and you let it ring. You told yourself you'd call back Monday. Monday came, and you didn't. You still haven't. You don't think about that most days. Most days the work consumes you, and it's clean and quiet, and you move money the way a river moves water, reshaping the ground around it without ever seeming to try. The men with guns exist somewhere downstream, not your concern. You try not to think about what the water was before it reached you, who it hurt, where it came from. Then Anton calls on a Tuesday. There's a new analyst starting Monday. Young. Sharp. Solid finance background. You'll be training him. You say fine. He arrives Monday morning, 24, with his license, 5 years at a commercial bank downtown, and eyes that quietly take in everything. He sits down, opens his laptop, and he looks, if you let yourself see it, a little like you used to. The same hunger, the same careful steadiness, the same way of checking himself for half a second before a question. You show him the first transfer. Simple, you tell him, you've done this 1,000 times. Move the money from here to here. Keep each transaction under the threshold. Make it clean. And whatever you do, don't ask where it came from. He nods. He doesn't ask anything else. You used to be him, now you're Vince. And the cycle just keeps turning. And if you're certain you'd never be the one in that chair, remember the math underneath this story. It was never about greed or being a bad person. It was pressure you couldn't see a way out of, opportunity placed gently within reach, and a small private story that let you call the thing something other than what it was. Pressure, opportunity, rationalization. That's the whole recipe. And researchers who study financial crime estimate that with all three lined up at once, the vast majority of ordinary, decent people would do exactly what this banker did. The trap was never the money. The trap was the story he told himself about it. And the only real defense any of us has is being honest enough to recognize the moment that story begins, long before the envelope ever lands on the table.